Frameless doors can be very tricky. There's a lot that can go wrong. In this video, we'll be fabricating our frameless doors the easy way. Stick around and find out.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When you build a door and try to hang it, there's all kinds of uncertainties that can happen. Pre-hung interior doors aren't too hard. You just level them inside the opening, and the seams on all the sides are pretty easy to get even. But when you're fabricating a frameless door, there's a lot that can go wrong. This is why I built this door up in the opening, as opposed to building it then hanging afterwards. These temporary scrap blocks will hold my panel in place, and these shims on the floor will give my door the clearance I'm looking for. The panel is still a bit tight, so I'll shave between 1/8 to 1/4 inch off of one long side and one short side to give me a little more wiggle room in that opening. Your panel size will not determine the final size of your door. The trim in our next step will, so don't be afraid to cut a little extra. When shaving a sliver off of a sheet good, it helps to pinch the guard with your thumb and pointer finger. It's a little nerve-wracking to get your fingers this close to the saw, but if the blade were to twist and the saw were to kick back, it would kick backwards, not forwards. Never ever put your fingers or hands behind a circular saw. Now that I have a little room to work with, I use shims to get my panels centered in my opening. I shoot an 18 gauge brad nail into each corner to temporarily hold my panel to each of those blocks we installed earlier. I want my door to catch against the face of the shed when it closes, so I'm leaving myself about a 1/2 inch overhang on the top, bottom, and right sides of my opening. If this doesn't make sense, you'll see as it comes together. Right now I'm measuring for the vertical trims for the door opening, not the door itself. Think of these next 3 pieces as your door frame. This left piece of my frame will be my hinge side. This side should be flush with your opening. If your 2x4 rough opening isn't perfectly level, it doesn't really matter so much. What does matter is that these trims are level, because these will dictate how level your door ends up. Here I'm measuring over that 1/2 inch for my door catch. Rather than leveling this second piece, I set its position by measuring off the first piece. It's good to have a double stud at your door openings, so your trims have something solid to fasten to. This top piece of the frame should overhang a bit, and I cut my ends to a 5-degree angle to fancy it up a little bit. If I could do it again, I'd probably go a little heavier with my overhang. Here you can see my left side is flush with the opening, and the rest is roughly a ½ inch back from the opening. When measuring the length for the trim that will attach to your door, leave 1/8 inch space at the top for your seam and add a ½ inch at the bottom for your overhang. When installing these trims to your door panel, you want an even 1/8 inch seam on the left, right, and top sides. Don't go too tight here because things do tend to swell in the humidity of summer. Now measure your trims for the top and bottom. Here I'm measuring to the middle of my door panel so I can mark for my last piece of trim. Next, install temporary blocks to hold our door panel in place because we're going to take the blocks off of the inside to give our door a 2x4 structure. My block on the right side wasn't fastened all the way, so I ran around the other side and I shot one more nail in it. When measuring for your 2x4 structure, leave yourself plenty of room. Measure the size of your opening and deduct 3/4 of an inch. This will leave you 3/8 of clearance on all sides, which you're definitely going to need. You want to use your straightest 2x4s for this step. Mine were slightly warped, and you can tell when the door shuts all the way, it doesn't make a perfect flush seal. I add shims on the bottom to give my door plenty of clearance. Your seam on the hinge side can be fairly tight, but the hinge on the strike or latch side of your door needs plenty of room, or your door is not going to open. All interior doors are not square on their strike edge, they're slightly beveled. To keep from having to bevel your 2x4, just leave a bit of extra room. Now, for one last time, I'm installing temporary blocks to hold my door in place until I get my hinges on. I'm driving some 3-inch screws through my door trims, through the door panel, and into that 2x4 structure. I add a few of these on each edge, and this will keep it all really solid. I made the mistake of putting a few screws where my hinge hardware will end up. Keep this in mind when choosing a location for your screws. This door screw just happened to be exactly where that hinge screw needed to be, so I moved it over a few inches. When setting your hinges, make sure the center of the barrel of the hinge is aligned with the center of the seam between the frame and the door. I like to pre-drill for the door hardware so nothing moves on me. If you have self-centering drill bits, now's the best time to break them out. Sorry for being out of focus here. My camera took more interest in that bush branch that slapped me earlier. Now that the door is permanently in place, we can remove all our temporary blocks on both sides. Sometimes hitting the center of your hardware can be difficult. I like to put my drill on a heavy angle and ride the edge of the hole when sneaking up to the center. Once I get just a little bit drilled out, I stand my drill up and drill to my full required depth. If your hole is slightly off center, the screw can end up pulling your hardware out of position, which can be frustrating. You can also mark the center of your hole with a pencil and use a pointy nail set to make a small dimple to keep your drill bit from wandering on you. This pencil mark is the height I like for my top screw. Then the second pencil mark is the center of the trim. And just like that, we have perfect frameless doors with an even seam on all sides. Thank you all for watching. Check my full series on how to build a shed. If this video was helpful or entertaining, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading DIY builds and woodworking projects regularly. Thanks for hanging out.